Is the Russian military throwing women conscripts into the front lines? Just why is the country that's totally winning the war of attrition resorting to using women? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. So this is part of, again, a larger trend of Russia. I'm like trying to think of how to put this nicely, of Russia doing things that you would not do if you were totally winning. And boy, throwing women into combat is one of the top ones. So this is this is a report from Atesh, a partisan group operating within Russia, but that's been confirmed at least by some anecdotes that we've seen of Russian women assault groups. So you can see this is from the 110th, depicting, again, I can't show you the full video because it's a drone strike, but it depicts two soldiers who are very clearly women moving, again, in an assault type of formation, i.e. a two-person group advancing. Now, the insane part of all this is that the report is that the 506th Motor Rifle Regiment in the Russian Army is recruiting women into assault units due to severe personnel losses. The Telegram report says that, of course, there's no longer contract soldiers or even foreigners available to engage in these operations, that they're ready to throw, quote, anyone to the slaughter, turning women to cannon fodder. Now, that beyond just the assault roles, women are also used for infiltration missions, which honestly, assault and infiltration are almost feel indistinguishable in this conflict. And if the assault fails, they're ordered to change into civilian clothes and become spies, posing as locals. Atesh adds, quote, our sources confirm there is no way back for these women. Their lives depend solely on the mercy of their commanders, which can be earned only one way. The Russian army has completely lost its moral compass. Now, what I think is interesting is not quite the right word, but what's the additional problem with this is that for Russia, one, there's been reports kind of that have emerged, every year or so, right? And most recently in May 2024, Russia reportedly released a group of women from prisons to participate in the fighting in Ukraine. This was from the New York Times, citing former inmates who remain in contact with those still imprisoned. So sort of third-hand accounts, but interesting thing to lie about. According to the accounts, military recruiters took several women from a prison near St. Petersburg, but it was unclear if it was just a one-off, a pilot program, or the beginning of a broader recruitment campaign. But there's also discussion of female inmates being offered one-year contracts to serve as snipers, combat medics, or frontline radio operators. Now, reportedly, recruitment is not that high since women have this thing where they like to be alive. But what I think the real meta here is that on one hand, Russia claims their recruitment is going swimmingly. In fact, they claim their recruitment is exceeding their target numbers in 2025. Well, this data is sort of incompatible with that, right? But also, you have to remember that Russia is facing a demographic crisis, which means that, so if you've ever studied demography, you know that the primary metric by which a fertility of a country is measured is births per woman. And that's because biologically, a society can sustain a lot of male losses and still maintain a complete repopulation in the next generation. I don't need to explain to you. If you can't figure out the biology of that one, I don't know what to tell you. You're too young. Go finish your algebra homework. So the fact that Putin is looking at military-age women who could be reproducing, right, bearing the next generation of Russian children, right? Remember, Russia has a massive demographic crisis, and that's not my terminology. That's Russia's own terminology for it. The fact that they are sending them to die in pointless assaults in Ukraine is itself pretty kind of a red alert sign, right? There's also this cultural weight too, because in a country like Russia, right? A lot of the Russian propaganda leans heavily on a return to tradition, a like traditional anti, the West is the decadent land of gender equality and LGBT, and Russia's the land of traditional family values. Well, FYI, sending women, putting them in uniform and sending them to go conduct one-way assaults, that's not exactly a traditional values. At that point, you're taking all the things that are horrific about, yeah, that you're taking literally the worst, most grim parts of the like equality ethic, which says that, if you believe men and women are equal, then they should share equal burdens and experience equal traumas of society, i.e., being forcibly recruited and sent to fight in a war, in addition to sharing equal benefits, right? And so the fact that Russia, before even the United States, is rolling out, women in combat roles, despite being a country that is explicitly like anti-woke, it would be funny if it didn't end in bloodshed. And it's more troubling, right? There's a troubling part of this, which is that if you claim to be a defender of traditional Russian values and then you're getting women smoked, the Russian public can't find out about this. This would be really bad for the government, right? It's similar things happened in, for example, like a lot of Muslim majority countries where when security forces kill men and they say, they were militants, we killed these militants. A lot of times their people go, great, good riddance, right? Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but we're not worried about it. But when they kill women and children, it's an outrage. It's disgusting. It's revolting. It literally causes tremendous, tremendous outrage. And that, I think, dichotomy is a fundamental value, right? You want a government that reflects your values. And just because Russia does things that are offensive to us from the Western perspective, like fake elections, doesn't mean that they're as offensive to the Russian public. But when the government doesn't adhere to its own stated values, that's where you run into problems. Now, this isn't the only incident of the military who claims they're winning suddenly looking very desperate. I can't show you this footage, but I assure you I've watched it and it's real. The Russian forces are actually targeting residential areas in Kherson with MLRS systems. For those of you that don't know, MLRS systems is rocket artillery. This is non-precision artillery that is, well, rockets. They're whole big batteries of rockets that just fire into a general direction. In the military, we used to joke that MLRS was when you wanted to eliminate an entire grid square. So sending them into the downtown of an urban area like Kherson is stupid, right? Remember, Kherson is just across the river from Russian positions and is seen as a still functioning civilian city. These kind of terror tactics are likely impulsive and done in response to Ukraine's targeting of Russian oil infrastructure. So when you have this, again, all of this collectively does not paint the picture of a country who is on the cusp of victory, a country who's about to roll through Ukraine, right? We're going to see, but we've talked about the fact the Russian economy does not look like to be in good shape. And now we're seeing that the Russian recruitment efforts, that the Russian tactical solution, it looks increasingly like it's also going to be a failure. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Do hit subscribe. Do join us as become members on combatvetnews.com. Thanks to Paul Wheeler, Michael Clean, Jeff Davies, Francis Karizis, Thomas Henderson, Eugenia Cuesta. Couldn't do without you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.